On this program, we try not to talk about the president's fake news jabs any more than necessary. They're clearly designed to undermine the reporting of this outlet and others that the president simply doesn't like, no matter how many sources or facts are included. But shouts of fake news are not just an annoying distraction or a political dog whistle. They are actually dangerous. At least that's what former UK Prime Minister David Cameron is saying. He is blasting the president's rhetoric.
And let me say this. When Donald Trump uses the term fake news to describe the CNN or BBC, that is not just a questionable political tactic. It is actually dangerous. Of course, broadcasters make mistakes, and it's right that they correct them. But what is being attempted here goes far beyond that. It is an attempt to question the whole legitimacy of organizations that do have an important role in our democracies.
The facts support what he's saying there. According to the New York Times, leaders of Syria, Venezuela, Myanmar, and Russia have all used the term fake news to dismiss credible reports and stories that they just disagree with. That includes an Amnesty International report about prison deaths in Syria and claims from an official in Myanmar that the Rohingya Muslims who are being systematically raped and killed are, quote, fake news. Senator John McCain also weighed in yesterday afternoon, retweeting a report from the Committee to Protect Journalists with this comment: Press Freedom's annual report shows record number of journalists imprisoned worldwide in 2017, including 21 on fake news charges. The president must understand his harmful rhetoric only empowers repressive regimes to jail reporters and silence the truth. Earlier, I spoke to CNN's chief international correspondent, Christiane Amanpour, and Ryan Crocker, former U.S. ambassador to 6 Middle Eastern countries, including Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. Christian, we're in this extraordinary situation where dictators now can dismiss a free press as fake news and are basically given permission to do so by the leader of the free world.
Anderson, you know, from my vantage point here overseas, and I've been following and tracking this ever since the word fake news came out of the president's mouth, before he was even inaugurated, we have seen an exponential increase in the harassment, the imprisonment, the assault of journalists all over the world. You just have to look at the statistics at the Committee to Protect Journalists and others who track journalist safety. It really is a problem, whether it's in Russia with Vladimir Putin, whether it's in Turkey with President Erdogan, or in the Philippines with President Duterte, and many other countries. Of course, when they see the President of the United States, first of all, it gives them a carte blanche, but even worse, they figure that if it comes from the President of the United States, at least he must know what he's talking about. There must be a grain of truth. It's not like they're saying, oh, well, he's giving us cover. They think maybe he's actually speaking the truth against us, and that's what's very, very dangerous.
Ambassador Crocker, I mean, Russia, Syria, China, Myanmar, Philippines, Turkey, Libya, to name just a few, are all countries whose leaders have recently invoked fake news to dismiss legitimate news stories. I mean, you've certainly dealt with repressive regimes.
Well, exactly, Anderson. It's as Christiane says. This is just their golden opportunity that if the President of the United States says it, they can say it too. The climate has gotten a lot dicier out there now around the world because of fake news. It's also gotten dicey with the media as the enemy of the American people. A lot of other autocrats out there just too happy to pick that up and substitute the nationality of choice for the American people. So, you know, what happens in Washington doesn't stay in Washington.
You know, Christian, the press secretary, Sir Huckabee Sanders, was given an opportunity to actually speak out on the importance of press freedom and freedom of the press around the world. And I want to play you what she said when she was asked about this.
Is the White House concerned at all about authoritarian regimes adopting this phrase, fake news, to try to delegitimize the press? And does President Trump bear any responsibility for the popularization of this phrase among some world leaders?
I think the White House is concerned about false and inaccurate information being pushed out and to mislead the American people. Our concern is making sure that the information that the people receive in this country is fair and accurate, and when it isn't, that it's corrected, and corrected in the same fashion in which it was first presented when it was wrong, which is very rarely the case.
I mean, that's it.
Anderson, listen, this is really a moment that needs to be crystallized and run with, because what she is saying is, you know, there are things we don't like what you say about us. Therefore, we say fake news. You know, I know, everybody knows that when legitimate news organizations make mistakes like ours, like the New York Times, whatever it might be, we correct it, we take accountability measures, and we do not let false or mistakes stand. So it is unfair and incorrect to accuse legitimate news organizations of deliberately peddling fake news. This is really serious, and it just has to stop, because it is undermining not just our safety, but the credibility of democracy and the fight against corruption and the legitimacy of our order, our world order.
And Ambassador Crocker, I mean, there are thousands of journalists who have paid with their lives at the, there's the wall of the fallen journalists, fallen reporters who have tried to expose corruption or bear witness to war at the museum in Washington, D.C. 2,305 names and counting, including Americans like Jim Foley, Marie Colvin is on there, who Christian certainly knew. I mean, do you think the president realizes what is at stake or cares at all?
I don't think he realizes it. Over the years, some of my very best friends have been international correspondents. They get the story right. That's the mission. And often getting the story right means putting your own life in danger. I think of your Ben Wiedemann, Arwa Damon, who had a very, very close call, Anthony Shadid, who died in Syria, Alyssa Rubin, also of the New York Times, who came with an ace of dying in that helicopter crash when ISIS rolled through, dictated a story from her hospital bed and took a full year to recover. So, to bring you news that is anything but fake, some of the best journalists in the world put their life at risk.